Hi there, fellow fantasy aficionados. It's Ruben from the Ruby Tuesday here, and today we're diving deep into the swirling vortex that is Season 3 of the Wheel of Time. Grab your cloaks and your angriel, because this season takes us on a journey as winding and intricate as the pattern itself. Spoiler warning, if you haven't finished Season 2 or need a refresher on Season 2, how it ended, Rand channeling enough power to make even Lewis Theron proud, Ishmael getting his final sleep, and Rand's official "I'm the Dragon Reborn" mic drop moment, then go catch up before we get into it. Alright, let's dive in. Let's start with the brilliant hands weaving this tapestry. Showrunner Rafe Judkins is back steering the ship, or should I say guiding the pattern, and his background is genre TV like Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., Hemlock Grove. It really shows here. Judkins clearly understands the delicate balance between honoring Robert Jordan's books and adapting them for TV audiences who might not have memorized every detail. Guilty, that's me. They're big books. The writing team is seriously stacked as well. We've got Dave Hill from Game of Thrones, which explains some of the darker undertones and political intrigue this season. Then there's Justine Jewel Gilmer, who you may know if you read the credits at all from Halo and Survivor or The Survivor. Adding those emotional gut punches, and of course Brandon Sanderson, the man who completed the Wheel of Time book series after Jordan's passing. He's still involved as a consulting producer, which means that the heart of the story stays intact, mostly. Brandon said, and I quote, when first reviewing the first 6 episodes, "This is uncharted territory for me. As I've said to people, I envision this as a new turning of the wheel. It's the same souls, but in a different actual turning of the wheel." So if you're a fan of the books, but are expecting things to stay the same, that is not going to be the case. However, even Brandon says that he enjoyed the turning of the wheel this time round, although he didn't like everything about it. So, take that with a pinch of salt. If you're diehard fans, then you might not like everything that this season does. Direction-wise, Sana Hamari returns with the slick cinematic flair. She directed some of the most visually stunning episodes in Season 2, and she brings that same energy here. The big battle sequences are epic. Season 3, Episode 1 starts with a mammoth battle that lasts a while. There are a lot of moving parts in this opening sequence, and it's done beautifully. A truly wonderful way to remind the audience about what we loved about this world. And Sana Hamari expertly crafts deep, lasting connections with our characters in amongst massive, brutal fight scenes. I was really impressed with the movement and pace of this season. Somewhat. There are a bit lags in between certain episodes, but I'll get to more on that later on. Season 3 feels like the characters are really coming into their own now. Rand al'Thor, still played by Joshua's arc in Season 3 is massive. After the whole defeating Ishmael and revealing himself as the Dragon Reborn thing, he's basically got a target on his back the size of the Blight. Straczynski nails the balance between Rand's growing confidence and the consistent threat of losing himself to the One Power. And let's not forget his complicated relationship with Lanfear. Ah yes, Lanfear is back and causing all sorts of trouble. Their dynamic feels almost Shakespearean, I guess. There is trust, betrayal, and a whole lot of sexual tension. The Forsaken are gunning for him, and you can feel the pressure building with every episode. Every encounter with Forsaken feels deadly. Even with his powers, what he is up against is so formidable, and yet we see his internal battle as the Dragon Reborn. Every choice he makes weighs on him. Joshua plays with his character's predicament wonderfully. And then we get to Moiraine, still played by Rosamund Pike. Pike continues to crush it as Moiraine. If Rand is the heart of the story, Moiraine is the spine. After losing her powers in Season 2, Moiraine starts Season 3 struggling to reclaim her strength, physically, emotionally, and politically. The White Tower is divided, the Black Ajah are more dangerous than ever, and Moiraine knows the last battle is coming. Pike gives Moiraine that regal yet haunted quality that makes her such a captivating character. Watching her rebuild herself is one of the most rewarding arcs in this season. Every moment, every breath, and every spoken word is portrayed in a way that looks calculated, and Rosamund beautifully weaves a complex persona in an often understated way. I loved her in Season 3, more so than the previous ones, but that's probably because we've had 2 seasons to build upon these characters, so we get to hit the ground running with these characters. Then we get to Egwene, still played by Madeline Madden. Egwene's arc this season is brutal in a good way. If you've read The Shadow Rising and Fires of Heaven, you'll know Egwene's rise to power isn't exactly smooth. There's navigating the White Tower politics, dealing with betrayal, and confronting the reality of what it means to be Aes Sedai. Madden brings so much intensity to this role. You can feel the weight of her choices, and her relationship with Nynaeve is complex and layered. Speaking of Nynaeve, still played by Zoe Robbins, after her brutal journey through the accepted test last season, Nynaeve spends much of the season 3 grappling with what it means to be both powerful and vulnerable. Robin gives Nynaeve this shimmering strength that makes her scenes magnetic. As usual, Zoe plays Nynaeve by wearing all her emotions on her sleeve for all to see, and she's got a lot to work through here. Her character often seems louder than the others because a lot of the Aes Sedai are internal with their emotions and thoughts. Nynaeve is not that, and her scenes in the White Tower show just how much she contrasts with the others, which is great. Then we get Perrin, still played by Marcus Rutherford. Perrin's storyline finally starts to hit its stride this season. He's fully embracing his wolf brother identity, complete with more interactions with the wolves. Also, Fael enters the picture, played by Isabella Basseri, and their dynamic is fantastic. Rutherford really captures Perrin's quiet strength and, I guess, moral conflict. The whole am I a man or a beast struggle is beautifully portrayed. In fact, after the first episode, the band are basically separated again, and this is where we follow individual storylines that need to be unpacked. Perrin's story is just one of the few that we follow, and often is the one that I enjoyed watching for a little bit of downtime and then action, and just kind of getting to deal with what his character has now become. And talking about what characters are becoming, Matt Cawthon, who's played by Donald Finn. Donald Finn steps into the role with an energy and charm that is exactly what the book fans are expecting, or at least I was. Matt's arc this season brings a closer look to the iconic band of the Red Hand, moment we've been craving, but Matt Cawthon does not directly face the band of the Red Hand, but he does encounter a faction of it. As he's gradually becoming aware of his connection to the ancient warrior Aemon, who was the leader of the band of the Red Hand, this connection is hinted at through visions and encounters with individuals who are a part of the band's remnants, which are scattered and operating in different regions. Finn's performance captures Matt's mischievous side and his growing sense of responsibility. And yes, the luck-based battle scenes are phenomenal. Matt and his horniness plays a part in Season 3. And I don't mean that he is horny, just that the horn is bound to him. I like this character from the beginning. He was always the guy who didn't want to be there, the underdog, the person that nobody expected much of, and yet he's become somewhat integral to this story. Donald plays this complicated character with fun and dark hubris. At moments we see the complications of the situation unfolded on screen beautifully through him, and we feel for him. Then in the next scene, he'll open his mouth and he'll be saying something that just is going to get him stabbed or punched or worse. Saying that, there is a maturity to his character that has started to bloom in sequences, not just forced but well written for a believable change and acted with the same traits we've seen from him in Season 1 and 2. As I mentioned earlier, if you're a fan of the books, from page to screen, the adaptation and the divergence is something that's going to get fans a little nitpicky. Now let's get nerdy about the book changes. Season 3 pulls heavily from The Shadow Rising, and I believe some of Fires of Heaven, but I'm not quite sure because it's been a while since I've read them. The show stays true to the major beats though. Rand's growing conflict with the Forsaken, Egwene's rise, Perrin's wolf brother journey, but it condenses some of those side plots and merges a few character arcs. Yes, some diehard fans might clutch their Wheel of Time encyclopedias in protest, but honestly, most of the changes serve the story's pacing. For example, expanding Lanfear's role earlier than in the books works really well because it adds immediate tension to Rand's journey. Visually, Season 3 is an absolute treat. The Isle Waste sequences are jaw-dropping, filmed in Morocco. The sun-soaked dunes and rocky terrain look exactly how I imagined they would. The battle sequences are more significant in scale and use a great mix of CGI and practical effects. If you're interested in this type of thing, you should check out behind the scenes online to see how they worked with the real-world settings, but when they added green screen and CGI to create the Wheel of Time fantasy elements. That combination of the real-world elements, but then adding that fantasy makes it feel tangible, and that's why I think this one is staying with longevity or probably finding its feet now more than some of the others do. The weaves are more defined now as well. You can see the threads of Saidin and Sadar twining and intricate patterns channeling scenes. The Forsaken's magic has this distinct dark edge to it, almost corrupted in texture, which is a nice visual contrast to Rand's cleaner weaves. Costuming also deserves a shout out here. The Ale Warrior garb looks functional and yet really deadly, while the White Tower's high collars and flowing robes scream political intrigue. And Lanfear, let's just say Natasha O'Keeffe's wardrobe budget is doing a lot of heavy lifting this season. I had a lot of fun with season 3. The action seems scaled up. I love the fact that we get to see what's going on with the weaving mixed in with sword fights and hand-to-hand combat. When the fantasy action in this series gets going in season 3, it shines, outdoing the previous 2 seasons. Just like in Game of Thrones, there's a lot of downtime in between the action for political machinations, romantic arcs, and more drama to make Gossip Girl fans say, enough already, sever a head or two. But I mean, that is exactly what The Wheel of Time is. It's a romantasy, but adapted from an incredible crafted set of books. And I think for the most part, it's good, just not great. I've enjoyed my time with this season, but wouldn't be devastated if it's not picked up for a full season. I presume it will though, because Wheel of Time is still Prime Video's top 3 series of all time, behind Fallout and Rings of Power. Season 3 of The Wheel of Time stands as a testament to epic storytelling. The characters are complex and mostly realized, the political intrigue is intense, and the emotional stakes have never been higher. This is not just another fantasy show. It's an adaptation that honors Jordan's legacy while crafting something fresh and engaging for modern audiences. If you're a fan of the books, this season gives you the payoffs you've probably been waiting for, if you're able to put aside some differences. If not, then those differences will irritate you. If you're new to the series, buckle up, because the pattern is unfolding and it's more thrilling than ever. There is a theme of violence and a theme of adult mental themes that will take a toll on the younger viewers, like torture and some sex, although not quite like Game of Thrones. Not on that level. I give Prime Video's The Wheel of Time 3.75 Nicolas Cages out of 5.
You got one.
Until next time, may you always find water and shade, my friends, and remember, live long and Tuesday.